people, welcome back to Let's Talk Therapy. I'm your trainee psychotherapist. Welcome, a training therapist that is showcasing his experiences training as a therapist, as well as having conversations surrounding mental health. Different type of video this time round. As you can see, I cut my hair. Well, my kids did, to be fair.
What did he say?
My kids got in a barber shop experience, so I think they wanted to relive that. So I gave them an opportunity to cut parts of my hair with some clippers and some scissors. Even though my son did try and cut one of my ears, and I was like, "Yo, buddy, you need to relax." But yeah, nevertheless, cut my hair until I went to the barber shop. Cut it all bald. Had a like 0.5, and now it's been growing really quick. To be fair, as well. So yeah, once it's kind of growing a bit, I'll go to the barber shop and then get the whole shape up and or whatnot, blah 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 blah. But yeah, man. This time round, I wanted to do a different type of video. I wanted to be a bit more personal, and I think just giving a small, in-depth perspective on my trainee therapist sort of journey and how I've been finding it, how I've been supported well by my supervisors and my placement manager. I've been lucky enough to find a great placement, well supported by great people around me in different parts of their journey as a therapist. Some of them are trainee therapists, some of them are working towards their accreditation, some people are just there for their hours. Whatever it may be is what I seem to find and really enjoy about my placement. That is very collaborative. It's very much people are willing to communicate and be sort of creative in a sense where to make sure to help individually as well as make giving food for thought ideas for your client work. And one of them it being that, I'm not sure if you can tell yet, got massive stones in here. I think I might even delve into that actually. Yeah, because I wanted to express how I've been finding the work personally. So yeah, I think the reason why I got stones there, it was an idea of another therapist who said that she used stones as a way of being creative in the therapy room, and how that sort of is beneficial in a therapy space is when she used it with a client, and the client was diving in through the bags of stones, and she was trying to look for a particular stone requested by the therapist, who said, find a stone that sort of symbolizes your life, and she couldn't find one, and that was a metaphor for her saying that she can't find herself. And once I heard that, I was like, what? That sounds incredible, because I'm imagining, okay, sometimes with me cutting my hair, it's much more than, yes, it's of course it's a change, but it's more of a sense of rebirth. I feel like in this journey of my life at the moment, I'm sort of transitioning into a different type of version of myself, which I'm really enjoying, and which I feel is a different sort of maturing. I'm discovering new things as a training therapist, individually as a father, and just someone who's just a somebody in life. I don't even know if that makes sense, but yeah, you know what I mean. Bear in mind, people, this is off script, off brand, no notes, nothing. It's just off top of the dome, so bear with me. But yeah, so I'm finding myself that I'm really sort of changing, and the idea of me cutting my hair and my hair growing back is just another sense of growth, another sense of transitioning, and the fact that, and because I was so mind blown by the idea of these stones, I thought I had a perfect client that came in. I had a new client, and I thought, watch the material that she was bringing in. I think, oh, it sounds very heavy, and I thought, the minute I said, oh, this sounds heavy, I thought of the stones. So I remember prior, I told my sons to get me fetch me some stones around the house, in the garden and so forth. Managed to get me some stones, brought it in. Yes, it was heavy in my bag, as well as my laptop, my lunch and everything, but nevertheless, and I brought it in, and I told her, yeah, place these stones on your lap, and then find a stone that symbolizes. I kind of used the same question, and interestingly, she found a stone that she kind of picked this one, and as you can see, as is sort of light outside, but it's very dark inside. And what she managed to bring out of that was that the fact that she finds in her life, she's very very light, she's very bubbly on the outside, and the surface willing to communicate and learn and so forth, but there is some sort of deep sadness within her, and the darkness within that stone resembled that. And there, boom, I feel like part of the work is processing, and part of that work is now discovering, okay, what is that sadness, what does that sadness look like, and kind of prompting her to go into diving into more of that sadness and what does that sadness sort of represent in her life. And it was extraordinary. Even when I later on within our session, I asked her, okay, find a stone that sort of represent your sadness, and she found this small particular stone. She found this very small, and I said, but what we sort of imagined, but she said that if it was bigger, it will be a massive stone, because she felt that she's been holding a lot of sadness throughout the years. And going into more, I don't want to obviously, I'm not here trying to break boundaries and start telling you specifics about what a sadness is and stuff like that, but I'm just trying to bring the conversation surrounding how the sort of creativity that is sort of presented in the therapy space. And just a side note quickly before I go into the story, I think there's a lot of perspective on from the client's perspective, or someone that's spoken about, oh, this is how therapy was for me and this is how I benefited from therapy. But I just want to flip the coin and just give my overview as a trainee sort of therapist. So yes, so going back to her, she was obviously referring that this stone is actually is a massive stone. That's what she looks at it as. And what we sort of unpacked was that because it started off small, because she hasn't processed and been able to sort of delve into this sadness, is grown into a big stone like this that is a very different size to the stone that we just saw before, and how the sort of darkness inside represent the sadness, right? So that was sort of interesting. And what makes it even much more better, I think, as a trainee therapist, what is so encouraging and what feels so good about this work that happens is that I think I've started to find a thing that feeds my ego, or feeds my trainee therapist ego in a good way, is that when I get to see clients self-actualize, that when clients use phrases, oh, now I'm able to understand where you're coming from, or I didn't see it that way, now I understand, or now I've understood that how some of my experiences as a child has shaped me up to me as an adult. These type of experiences, or these type of phrases that are presented in the therapy room, I could not help but feel good about the work that I'm doing. I can't help but feel encouraged by the work that is presented there. And this is where I'm here trying to, showcase my sort of experience and how that sort of creativity, because I like to think moving forward as a therapist, or as a trainee therapist, I like to bring some sort of creativity in the room. I do like using stones. There's a different sort of cards or phrases that you can bring into the therapy room, and I think it's sort of interesting. It almost feels abstract, but feel necessary, and without breaking boundaries, without it being skewing the boundaries, or reminding myself that this is still therapy and there is a framework to work with, that yet you can still be creative in the therapy room. And I think that at the moment has been really encouraging, and I think that's what I'm just here to sort of showcase and really share my sort of insight, how positively I've been supported well by my supervisors, and supervision has been a massive tool, and is very important for any sort of therapist or training therapist in this sort of profession too. It's almost like personal therapy, but also you're being supervised on the work. I have supervision from my placement, as well as having supervision from my course. And I think, especially, I recently got a client that I was looking at his notes, and it was the first male client that I was going to see, and I was like, oh my god, this seems a lot, and how can I sort of manage that? And the fact that I'm able to go to supervision and we get to sort of explore, okay, what are my sort of, why do I feel apprehensive about this particular client? What does that sort of mean? Of course, I'm not going to detail here, but I think what I'm trying to showcase is being able to have the space to elaborate and to really delve into how you sort of feel as a training therapist, and feel about the work that you're sort of presented, because you're told as well as a training therapist, you don't have to take on every client. And I think that was interesting, that I questioned my own competency at this moment of time, which is interesting. I find that very interesting, because but at the same time, I think that was just nerves, and these are the things that do happen as well, because remember, this is a very intimate space, that there is a therapeutic relationship that is being built within this space. There's it's just you and this client in this room, and you're building up a relationship. You're still studying, and things could happen. Look, my first time I saw my first ever client, I had a nosebleed before she, like, yeah, she came in and all of a sudden I had a nosebleed, whether or not that be nerves or usually the fact that I generally do get nosebleed. I'm conscious about the client taking that in as well and being like, oh, they can adopt that sort of mannerism as well. So you got to be a bit conscious. It's not saying that you go in there with some false confidence at all, but I feel confident that I feel well supported in the work that I do. I feel supported the fact that I get to go to personal therapy and sort of be elaborate with my thoughts and with my feelings towards my client work or whatever in my personal life. And I think that sort of mirrors that the fact that I'm there, you get to sort of unpack, you get to sort of discover this sort of your own self within that sort of moment. And I think that's almost what I sort of bring into the therapy room so far, that I'm sort of to understand is that, like, you know, asking myself, okay, what type of therapist I am, is that sort of belief and that self-discovery within our own mind, finding our true self, finding our wrong self, finding different parts of selves and exploring different parts of ourselves. And these are not selves that we should shame, or, you know, different archetypes, you know, as Carl Jung might say, but these are not selves or archetypes of people that we should shame, but we're there to sort of facilitate and bring them out in the right moments, because they help us piece this sort of puzzle of what life is, and especially how unique it is to the individual. Because yes, I'm speaking general terms, but when it's in the therapy room, it's much more deeper, it's much more, it comes more of a I feel like this, I care about this, I do not want this, I would want this, so I feel like this. And those I think I is a very important word. And I think we almost lost that in general landscape, where we always talk about others and it was all about this and us, and it's always we. But sometimes I do believe in that selfish act of, you know, you should allow yourself to think about you and only you. And in the times in the therapy sessions, I do sort of encourage that, okay, what is it that you want? Of course, other factors come into play, family members and so forth and whatnot, but what, you know, at the root of it, always going back to I. But yeah, man, sorry, it was just more, yeah, it was just an off script sort of video, and I just wanted to sort of explain my sort of process and my sort of experience of, you know, now really get into the thick of things and knowing how I work with IAPTers, with the NHS, but just more importantly the client work, and why I find it very interesting. And I think it fits my personality type. You know, I'm someone that is very inquisitive, I'm very sort of interested and fascinated, as well as, you know, that philosophical sort of state of thinking that I have in the back of my mind as well. You know, not looking at the right and wrongs, but looking at the nuance and the semantics of all, breaking it down and bridging the gaps between certain childhood experiences to adult experiences, and how they sort of relate or not to relate, looking at one's ego, looking at one's vulnerability within the therapy space. And I think because that rawness of therapy there, that you know, when a client is, you know, sharing tears, it's raw, it's honest, and to facilitate that, to contain and support that client within that moment, it's almost like you're not hiding anywhere, you're almost thrown into the deep end. But it's a good thing, because in some sort of regard, in back of my mind, I always feel like I know that I'm well supported by the supervisors and the placement manager around me, that I'm, and they get to look at my competencies, and they're able to say to me, hey, welcome, you're doing really good work, now we're going to give you 4 clients. And that's something that's exciting, because of course, as well as me getting 4 clients, I'm also trying to get my hours in. That's important, because I want to move on to the advanced year for the autumn intake. But at the same time, once that is put to the side, like, it is always about the client, and the client does come first as well, and keeping myself in check and the right sort of state of mind. And it's always important as therapists or training therapists, we keep ourselves in check as well. So I tend to, before I see that, you know, I done it in my TikTok video where, you know, I went into the room, made sure everything was all right, make sure everything is good, everything is settled, get my mind right, make sure I have my glass of water next to me, my notes and my pen. So, you know, I get myself in the best sort of state of mind. And once therapy sort of commenced, is there for the client to use that time to share what they want to share, and we're there to sort of listen and, you know, pose, you know, questions that prompt them to think deeper and or unpack some layers, parts of themselves. And I think that's always good and great. And I want to lastly say that I think once you come into the therapy room, that's when the journey starts. And I know it sounds cliche and journeys and all of that stuff, and it's very much attached to the world of therapy as well as other things. But I think in the world of therapy, I do want to put a positive spin, and I want to, for now, because there's so much skewed kind of narratives around therapy, I just want to baseline it by saying, yeah, it is a journey, and it's encouraging when someone comes in and they're seeking therapy and they're utilizing therapy. I always tend to validate the clients when they come into therapy to say, you know, well done, because this is the start of something, whether it will be with me, whether it will be a different type of therapy after the session, different modalities that you would want to work with as a client, whatever it may be. But the minute you set foot in, the therapy work starts as well. So yeah, man, I think, like I said, off topic, no script or anything like that, but just a video just detailing my experience as a trainee therapist. So yeah, man, people, don't forget to check out my latest videos on therapy, on my Black Fathers presentation as well. Follow my TikTok, follow my Instagram as well. There, where I'll be uploading some bite-sized videos as well on there. But yeah, my people, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. The likes are very much important on the YouTube space, but nevertheless, it's bringing up conversation. So I'm really happy about that. So yeah, once again, love for the support. Yeah, and take care, people.
But you had a turn.
You're gonna have another turn in a sec.
But I don't want to have fun now.
Yeah, you're going to, Casper.
Casper, if you can't learn to be patient, then we can't do that, can we?